Well, this has been a month of fun. As my little phone stand dies on me. Uh, wow, I don't even know where to begin. I'm so freaking tired. Yeah, I'll probably be working out of the house for the. Well, I got to stop by the office and check in with the boss. After which, I will probably be um, working from the house till like the next week. Trying to get my trips in now while we actually have. Hey, Nunya. I actually have another engineer still in the region before that person bails out, and then I'm going to be flying solo for a bit, but that's fine. Just you adjust accordingly, adapt and overcome and all that stuff. Good Lord, I'll tell you what. Funny story. I'm going to put a video of this later, but when I went to the airport, I parked in the covered park. Hey, good morning, border tagger, and somebody else popped in here. Hey, Dan, what's going on? Scott, what's going on? Hello, hello. And I parked my car and I looked next to it, and on the floor, on the pavement in the parking garage, is a crack pipe. And I'm like, that's cool. So I was like, that's kind of funny. So I took a picture of the crack pipe and I made a video of it and I saved it on my phone. I'm like, that's awesome. So I go on my trip, right? I go through 2 cities in airplanes, short train ride, car, out into the boonies, do my visits, 5 hours of meetings, then reverse the process. Hey, KP, get all the way home, fly all the way back, miss one flight, finally show up at like 10 o'clock at night. I'd been up since 4. And it was a meth pipe. It might have been a meth pipe actually, because it was smooth on the bottom. I'm gonna post the picture, Joe, so you can comment on it. It's a drug pipe. It wasn't pot, I'll tell you that. But I show up, the crack pipe or whatever it is still there, and I'm like, what the fuck? To Joe's point, it may be a meth pipe. That's becoming an issue everywhere. And fentanyl you inject, right? So that's not a smoke thing. Of course, you touch fentanyl and you fucking go down. You don't even have to like physically put it in your body. It touches your body. There you go. But yeah, it's been a trip, man. March has been a mess. So out of the 31 days of March, I have physically been traveling 15 of the days. That's a hell of a lot of like road time. People smoke fentanyl and tinfoil. Fentanyl. Hey, Holly. Hey, Kevin. There are a few other people. Dan, Joe, I have a gun picture I'm supposed to post. I'll tag you in it. I have a retro mid-length M16 looking thing I got my hands on. I was able to take a picture of. I just thought it's just old school, but I thought it was cool. In any case, yeah, folks, y'all saw my short video the morning the boat crashed into the bridge. What was that, day before yesterday? A couple of days ago. Hey, Watchman. And I don't know, where are the redundancies? Like, Vision and I talked about it on his channel the other night, on Tuesday night. But where was the redundancy? Where was the backup systems? I mean, you don't put even aircraft, like a lot of people think airplanes will come crashing down if there was an EMP. Many will, but not all of them, because airplanes by law and regulation have to be able to take lightning strikes and not crash. So an EMP, they might be flying blind, but the plane might still be in the air. It's hard to say, but they have backup systems, right? So if navigation goes down, GPS goes down, the pilots have physical maps. That's true. Where were the bridge bumpers? Well, you know what? They might have had them, but for something that big, God, I don't know. What is that, 95,000 tons? I mean, that weighs more than a building, literally. Because you think buildings, like an office building, is mostly hollow. This ship is hollow, but then it was all metal and it was filled with more metal shit. So apparently now there's hazmat leaking into the river. Imagine that, another case of hazmat leaking into the river. I don't know. That's just weird. It's weird. This what's been going on lately with the just the stuff going on, right? Like even October 7th, right? The attack on Israel. Who the hell saw that? And then Israel obliterated Gaza, basically. And then ISIS attacks Russia. Like, who? What the hell? Where the hell did that come from? And now we crash into our own bridge and knock a major thoroughfare down. Man, it's just weird. And apparently another bridge caught fire. I don't know how bridges catch fire, but there's another bridge on fire somewhere. I don't know. It may have been a fuel leak or something. Hey, Watchman. A lot of weird stuff, and to me, I'm paying a lot of attention to that kind of stuff, like United airplanes going off the runway, and although United did not have its A game on last night. Hey, Neil. Not concerned for me. That's good. Neil, you should do videos on that. People would love that. I don't know what you can and can't show on the interwebs, like there's certain training I've gone to, both with the company and with the Guard, that I would love to share the material. I still have it, but I can't. Because then I'll get phone calls, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. So, but there is some stuff I can share in bits and pieces, which I have. I had a good visit with family. If they don't help me deal with stuff that I'm abandoning, it's so they came to help. Oh, wow. It's amazing what an ultimatum can do for people, Joe, you know? Which is sad because it shouldn't be like that. But I'm sure they're the first people who will ask for money when needed too. It's always that person in the family, right? The one who never wants to help is always the first one to ask other people for money or favors. Because the ones that never ask for anything are usually the first ones who'll be willing to help. I don't know if I said that the right way. But I'll tell you what, I'm glad to be home. So where I was visiting, the meeting I had was in a field facility. And I flew into one city, but even from the city, it was still a 2-hour drive into the country. And actually, they went and did a location audit, which was 2 miles from the border. And I'm like, I got to get my plane. So you young guys are going to go to the field, and my older ass is going back to the airport. And I'm going to go have a beer and wait for my airplane. And that worked out. So I go to rent a car, and they hand me an EV, which I thought was cool. But I'm like, where do I charge this thing? Like, I don't even know where to charge it. But then I turn the vehicle on, and it says your range is 220 miles. I'm like, I've got to make a 400-mile round trip from the airport. Like, yeah, I'm going to have this monstrosity is going to get stuck nowhere. So I go back to the Avis, and I'm like, hey, I have to go to a remote location for work. I can't use an EV out there. There's nowhere to charge. And the lady says, okay, let me check. She says, oh, we have some gas vehicles. And she goes to get me a gas vehicle, the keys for a gas vehicle. And she's like, well, I can make that work. God, I had to try 100 driving a car like that. You know, I've been driving pickup trucks for years. I had a Charger once upon a time. I loved that freaking car. It's been a week. So yeah, I'm done. And of course I tried to lay off caffeine like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. So that was I've been trying really hard not to over caffeinate. But yeah, folks, I mean, a lot of this stuff is affecting transport lately. I don't know if you've noticed that. Airlines, air traffic control systems going down, bridges getting knocked out. And, you know, I've always heard that 5th generation warfare would start with hacks, which happen all the time. But then you'd start seeing things like things that look like accidents, but they're not. If you look at that video I did, that it was a graphic story, if you will, of how things would go down. There would be cyber attacks followed by asymmetric hits that you couldn't really blame on anyone. right? It's not like a submarine popped up and fired a rocket and took the bridge down. And you could say, okay, someone who has a submarine did that. Nobody, that didn't happen. A boat went nuts in a very strange way and knocked out a bridge, which was a major issue. What happened in Russia is another one where it's a proxy, right? Technically, ISIS did it. Who's behind ISIS, right? Yeah, do grow food, and if you can't grow food, store food. I've put off. Patton was killed by a drunk driver as he was promoting us going to war with Russia. Right, Neil, that's a really good point. And you know, I never thought that far back. But yeah, Patton actually wanted to take, what was he in command of, the 3rd Armored? Because if we don't do it now, we're going to fight with them for the next 40 years. And he was right. And he died before his time. But yeah, it's always that one spot I drive through and I lose my connection. I'm just going to pull over for a second here. I really started re-looking, I don't know if that's a word. I'm reevaluating how I've got everything packed. Thank you, Neil, because truthfully, I think I can do better with the travel kits. And oh yeah, there goes a fire truck. Always to the south side of town. They always go that way about this time. It's like somebody breaks shit at night and then they wake up and go, oh, something's broken, call the fire department. Anyway, that's just weird. I really need to rethink the way I've got certain things packed. I might have to invest in some like containerized shit or pouches and lay them out so that, okay, I'm in an airplane, I can take these 2 things. I'm in my truck, I can take these 4. I might actually look at like Refuge Medical or My Medic, one of those pre-packed first aid kits, see what they have in them. Honestly, I might just go talk to my son-in-law. He's a doctor. I'm sure he can tell me where I can find medical supplies. Oh no, Holly. I got kicked out of the live too, if it makes you feel any better. The live went dead. It just, everybody got kicked out. Like the party's over. Everyone, it's like when they turn the lights on in the bar, everyone go home. But yeah, I would encourage all of you to really, especially with the eclipse and all these people traveling, do I think like something evil's going to happen with the eclipse? No, we have eclipses all the time. Would it be a really nice target for a terrorist to go to one of these gatherings where everyone's looking in the air and do something bad? Possibly. But I think it's just going to be a travel shit show with the associated pickpockets, theft, car break-ins, crime. But with everything going on, I really need to evaluate. So I'd encourage you all to do that too. If you do travel, even if it's infrequently, actually maybe more so if it's infrequently, because you don't look at that equipment as much. What did Watchman say? The eclipse is over America and very rare, and they appear to be an omen. Possibly. Yeah, Neil. Popular. Well, here's the funny thing is, where it's traveling is going to go over Austin, Texas, which is our capital. I believe it's going over Austin. But a lot of small towns have asked for National Guard help because they literally have sold out everything, the Airbnbs, the hotels, and they're like, the county has a population of 100,000, but we're expecting 250,000 more people coming into the town. And that's just an invitation for accidents and people getting hurt and drunks and somebody will crash, you know, just nonsense. So if you don't have to travel, now it turns out where I am now, I'm going to have a 94% eclipse. So I've already bought a lens for my digital cameras. And if I can do it, I might take the day off and stay at home. I might work from home and set up the camera outside and do a live stream of the solar eclipse. Mostly solar eclipse. I'm not going to have a full eclipse here. And you guys can kind of watch with me and you know, watch the sun do things. But yeah, Texas has had 2 eclipses this year because we had one a few months ago. And NASA's going to play, oh shit, rocket game during the eclipse, and CERN is going to be operating. I'm working from home for the 8th. Yeah, and even if there's nothing happens, it's just, hey, Southern Tier, hey, Wolfang, it's probably not a bad idea just to not be on the roads, because people will be traveling to and from, and you don't want to deal with that. Easter is what, next weekend? I'm losing track here. What's today's date? Yeah, Easter's in a week, and the eclipse is a week after. That's weird. So, yeah, I got a free, by the way, look for freebies when you go to offices. I went to visit an affiliate company, and their HR people had like 100 of these laying out there, and it said, please take one. And I'm like, well, I don't work here. And I came back like 2 weeks later, and there were still like 5 or 6 left. I'm like, okay, you guys have had more than enough time to take the water bottle, so I'm still in the water bottle. Nowadays, doesn't matter what day it is. Yeah, well, Watchmen, remember that story I told last year or year before where my coworker's wife, he and his wife were walking in Denver in the middle of the day, and a guy whacks or punches her and knocks her to the ground, and then he winds up fighting the guy. And it took him a year to give him a trial date. And in the course of the year of him going to trial, he assaulted 5 more women. Well, now they're doing it in New York. Hey, Coffee. And you know what I've heard? Every one of those stories, almost all of them, not all, on TikTok and Instagram, the girl's like, I was walking down the street and I was texting my friend. Every single one was looking at their phone and whack. That's a good idea, Laura. Well, I'm gonna use it on the camera. So the worst case, if it doesn't work well for my digital camera, you're just gonna see blurry sun. But hey, Farmer, what's going on? But yeah, I'm gonna reevaluate. I'm gonna head to the store later and look for some travel packages, travel kits, and I might break up my travel stuff a different way so it's a little more modular. Well, Southern Tier, I grew up there in New York. That was back in the 80s when crack hit the streets for the first time. They were still fighting the heroin that was coming from Vietnam, and crack hit the streets, and it just cut a swath through the city. The trains were all spray painted, and then like 10 years ago, you looked at New York, it was all bougie, and I'm like, oh, New York cleaned up. And now I look at it, I'm like, nah, that's what I grew up with. Screw that, I'm not going back. Hey, Grateful, what's going on? But yeah, if look, people have compulsions, right? All right, take care, Wolfang. Hey, Kevin. Some people have compulsions, but they don't act on them for fear of retribution, right? There are a lot of drug addicts, and not every drug addict punches people, right? Oh, there you go. Yeah, I lived in Syracuse for years, actually. But they 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 don't act for fear of punishment, right? And then there's some people who are just nuts, right? They'll go and punch people no matter what they do, and they'll go and swack the crap out of someone. But most people with a bad compulsion won't act on it for fear of retribution or punishment. They've taken that fear away. They've taken that guy loose after kidnapping a lady, running from cops 12 hours after on his own recognizance. See, that's the problem. You let him back out, and there's no consequence, and these individuals have no fear of a consequence. And people say, well, they're sick. Yeah, they're sick. But just because that person's sick doesn't mean the other 30 people in the area have to suffer. You know what I mean? It's like if a dog gets rabies, I love dogs. I don't want to shoot a dog, especially one of my own. I've had to shoot one of my cats because he got some kind of distemper and was freaking out, and I shot his ass. I felt bad. I like cats. But you know what? It's not the cat's fault. I don't hate the cat, but I have to deal with the cat, or else the cat will contaminate the other pets or kid. By the same token, not that we should go out shooting people, but they need to be put in a sanitarium or something. Going out in the street and punching females for no reason Hey, good morning. Oh, who is that? Hey, Robert Bates, what's going on? Going out and punching females for no reason is not normal. And it should not be made normal, right? Adults, wanting to have relations with immature children is not right. That's not correct. And people say, oh, well, you know, 1,000 years in the ancient days, you got married at 15. Yeah, but you died at 30. So 15-year-old, you were middle aged. Humans as a whole develop much more slowly because we're not being chased by lions and tigers and bears literally around forests, right? So we maintain immaturity for longer and develop intelligence longer, which is why we're technologically more advanced. But these things are not normal. Going up and being violent, unprovoked, is not normal. But people think they can get away with it. No fear of consequences because there aren't any. No, there aren't any. That's the problem. Hey, Coffee. Um, hey, Bushcrafter, what's going on? And the fact, like what happened to my coworker's wife, just got punched out of nowhere, and she hit her head on the concrete and everything. She had to get therapy for a month. How much did that cost him and his wife? It's now his ex-wife, sadly, but how much did that cost them? It's just not normal. And I've watched these videos. It's trending on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. It's not on YouTube as much, but they're just walking around clocking people. In Southern Tier, yeah, to that point. Now we've introduced a lot of new people who are unvetted. Are they all bad? Of course not. No, I'm meeting these folks in the street. Most of them are working in my part of Texas, which I'm fine with, right? You came here and you're working and you're paying sales tax into the state and you got your hard hat and you're like, oh, tengo trabajo. Yay, more power to you. Great. We'll keep you and send the Antifas back to your country. How about that? I'll take them all day long, but we don't know who's coming in. We've got a lot of people coming in who are not right. They are criminals. They have been released from other countries' prisons, just like Castro did. And we've removed guns. We've removed. Well, they're trying to remove guns. They're trying to cut back our ability to speak. Well, technologically more advanced, Robert. You're absolutely correct. I think in becoming more technologically advanced, we've lost our natural skills. And I think that pays a penalty into our society. And I think a good example is these girls getting punched in New York City. If you think about it, because they've become so technologically advanced, they're boop, boop, boop on their phone, and they're not paying attention to what's around them. Whereas 100 years ago, you weren't looking at the ground unless you were picking something up. You were looking around you. You had a situational awareness. It's not that we're less evil people, although I think there are more evil people as a percentage now than there used to be. But I think the natural skill set of awareness and self-protection doesn't exist as much as it used to. And I think it's worse in the younger generation. Like, they just don't get it. Their internet goes out and they freak. They freak out, and it's a bad freak out. And I'm like, wow, you're the person who'd get other people killed in a mass shooting because you'd be the one screaming while everyone else is trying to hide. So, yeah. But I'm going to reevaluate how I pack my travel stuff. I got to make it more modular. I got to update some stuff because I made so many trips in rapid succession. 20 years ago, no one was looking at their phones. No, exactly. Nobody was looking at their phones. You couldn't look at those G.I. Joe phones. Remember the original cell phones? Like, you could actually use that against the mugger. You just go, wow. And, it's like a 5-pound phone with a big-ass lithium battery. You'd hurt your hands and knock them out at the same time. But, yeah, folks, double-check your travel preps. even if you don't travel often, and again, it may be even more important if you don't travel often, because my travel preps are also part of my bug out kit. It was a phone brick. Oh man, I remember those things, the brick phones, and those were fancy. Then they had that little antenna that looks like the one you take out of a beach radio, the metal antenna. You go chink, and then they'd be like blah 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 blah, and it was this big thing. He had a side pouch like Indiana Jones bag, but for a phone. But folks, double check your travel preps. I'd stay off the road April 8th just because people are stupid, and if something pops off, you're at home, and you're with your family. And then that, hey, oops. And then that way, I'd rather handle an emergency while I'm close to home than 5 hours away. You know what I'm saying? And certainly in an airport. Although I'm sure I could handle an airport situation if I needed to. By the way, I did find out my tourniquet, my tactical flashlight, and my Israeli bandage RTSA allowed. They let it through security. They looked at it and they're like, oh, that's cool, and off I went. So no problem. You can no longer bring your own booze hidden in your bag on the airplanes. That's disappointing, but it is what it is. I have to make my husband stay home from work. He is stubborn. Holly, what you may want to do is have a plan for him to get back home if something happens while he's at work. And I don't know the nature of his work, if he travels far, or if he's just going to and from every day, or if he spends a day and then comes back. But have some plans like, hey, if I'm, like I have family and friends in Houston, I have family and friends and coworkers in Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, many of whom are like we are, a lot of veterans too. So we have a running agreement in Texas, plus like Texas Red Leg, Cold War Prepper, Red October. I've met all of these guys. Like we've had coffee and whatnot. So we all know each other, and the running thing is, hey, like if Texas Red Leg's out in West Texas and something pops off and he can get a hold of me, he comes to my house, we'll fill him up with water, try and top off his gas if I have enough, make sure he has some ammo, and then if he has to get on his way and get back to his family, at least he had a couple of hours to kind of get his bearings, open up a map on my table, and be like, okay, which way are you going to go? What's the best routes? I can walk through a plan with him. You may want to have friends like that you can talk to each other, especially if you're traveling the way I do. I got my brother lives near New Orleans, so if I'm in New Orleans or Louisiana and something pops off, he's a prepper too, so I'm calling him. I'm being like, dude, I got stranded. We actually have an extra rifle for each other in the respective houses. So if he happens to be out here and something pops off, he's leaving my house with a long gun as he makes his way to his family. So, make those little plans, make those friendships. It's super important. I mentioned that in my book, like the importance of growing those relationships. And not necessarily a formal mag, although that's great, but a network of people that you trust and are like-minded, which basically in essence is a mag in its own way. But get your travel preps squared away. I tricked mine. Spend day and watch it again. Oh, there you go. I might take the day off just because I can. I might go visit my granddaughter. I don't know. She's on an army base, so something pops off there, I'll just go to the provost master and tell him, look, man, just swear me in and shit. I don't know. I think he still has that authority under the Constitution. Anyway, folks, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to go check in with the bosses. You guys be safe. And, oh, there you go, KP. And same here, man. If people get stuck, and again, think about it. If you're on the road and something really bad pops off, you just need enough time sometimes to just sit, fill up your water, and get your bearings before you go. Watchmen, I've seen some people acting out both on and off drugs, and I swear that was beyond illness. That was evil. So I can't argue with you on that one, my friend. Anyway, you guys be good, be safe. I'm going to go talk to the boss and give him a rundown of the trip. You guys be safe.